Modal jazz, certainly an integral part of the overall jazz scene. I mean, Miles Davis with Kind of Blue, some people say that was the start of modal jazz. John Coltrane did a lot with modal jazz, and all sorts of artists subsequent to that. You know, there's stuff to learn. You know, if you listen to modal jazz, you'll get some ideas, and you'll be able to develop a vocabulary. You know, there's different ways to approach that, where you're playing off of different scales and modes. I could demonstrate a little bit. There's a tune called Impressions that John Coltrane wrote. That interestingly, I talked about classical music earlier. The tune Impressions, how many people know Impressions? Raise your hand. It goes like this. That tune, that melody, was written by Benjamin Britten. It's in a Benjamin Britten symphony, written in the early 1900s, note for note. And Coltrane took that and, of course, put it in a very, very different setting, and he modulated up a half step and then came back. But Branford Marsalis had a radio show on a flight I was on, and he was taking he was citing examples of classical composition influencing jazz composition, and that was one of the examples, and I found that to be really interesting. Anyway, this is a modal tune. It's just two chords. It's D minor and E flat minor. So you have to find some stuff to play on that. It's a little different than playing through changes of like a standard. So let me try to demonstrate. 1, 2, 3, 4. So you may have noticed at one point, Hank played a diminished voicing on D minor, and I picked up on it. I heard it, and I went, cool. And I sort of went there, and I was playing off this whole half diminished scale. There's a great example of, knowing, part of vocabulary to know these different scales and things. So I knew this half whole diminished and was able to identify the sound of the chord that Hank played and then play something that fit with that, which is whole half diminished scale. And luckily, I've spent some time in the practice room fooling around with that scale and finding little patterns and ways of breaking up the notes in that scale, like you could play it in thirds. You can make a pattern out of any scale where you take the 1, 3, 4, 2, 3, 5, 6, 4, 5, 7, 8, 6. It sounds maybe a little more complicated than it is. If you took a major scale, it would just be this. So if you do that with that whole half diminished scale, play that chord, Hank. Kind of a little, a step towards playing something melodic rather than just a scale. So all these little things come into play when you're playing off of modal music. But modal music is real cool because it's open, it's very open, and you can interject or superimpose a lot of different things.